How did you, being in North Carolina and the band being Northern guys, like how did you guys come to meet? How did you end up like crossing paths with the guys from Taking Back Sunday and, you know, forming a band together, just geographically being so far away from each other?
Well, so like those bands I was talking about, like Pest 30 Deep, and so they had met some Long Island bands, like at the time, Sons of Abraham, Movie Life, and Silent Majority, like bands like that. So Long Island bands were coming down and playing High Point, Greensboro, Winston a lot.
Okay.
And vice versa, like the bands from there were going up, they would give them shows up there. And there was a band called Aerotype 11, and who like still I still talk to those guys today. But they're how I'm in Taking Back Sunday, because what happened was there was a place in Winston-Salem called 533 Uprisings, and it was in this like it was just kind of like an abandoned downtown building, because the downtown is not what it is today there. And and it was basically, they went in and like it was just DIY, like it was like kids running it. And like all the guys like in high school, I'm following around like them and their extended friends, they're all running this thing. And so I went because Sons of Abraham was playing. Neil Rubenstein sang for that band, and he's doing comedy now, and he's killing it. He's hilarious. And so I went to see them play, and I go and I get out of the car and I'm walking towards the venue, and one of my other buddies there was like, dude, Sons of Abraham canceled. I'm like, oh shit. So I'm like, well, okay. And I'm walking back to the car, and I see Phil Hanratty, who's the guitar player for Aerotype 11. And I had met them because, like I told you, like I was like the young kid, like I just wanted to be, like I wanted these older kids that were in the scene to like me so bad.
Yeah.
And so I was just always around like a little puppy. Hey.
Right.
And then, but there was one friend, Paige, and she and I were just always hang out. I'd stay at her house all the time, and like she was kind of like an older sister to me. And oftentimes when bands were coming through and needed a place to stay, they'd stay at Paige's place. And I would too. And so, because I was always there anyways. And then she was like kind of like my protector too, you know, like just awesome. She lives in Portland now. But so I turn the corner, and here's Phil Hanratty, and then I'm like, I didn't know you guys were playing. Shit, I'm gonna stay now. And then he's like, oh no, it's not Aerotype. I'm filling in on bass for my buddy's band, and the band is Taking Back Sunday. And so I like watched him, watched the show, watched him play, and Eddie is like Long Island legend as far as that scene. Like he was in Mind Over Matter, he started Movie Life, and then all those. And Taking Back Sunday was his new band, and they needed a bass player. So then, like after the show, we went to the Waffle House, as you do, and we were visiting with him, and I was just like, hey, could I try out for your band? And Ed's like, yeah, I guess if you want. So went to New York in my Honda Accord, my 1988 Honda Accord, great car, and with my buddy Chris Cab, and tried out for the band. We had a friend that we went to high school with. She was a year ahead of us, and she had just moved to Brooklyn, so we stayed with her, drove out to Long Island, tried out for the band, came back to North Carolina, and then like 2 weeks later, Eddie calls and is like, hey, we have these shows coming up. If you want to do it and you could make it, like, come on.
Yeah.
So at that point, I basically went to New York and just never came home.
Oh, wow.
Which I'm still apologizing to my dad for now, because like the few things that I had, like a futon and like other things, he had to go get from the house I was living in with like 5 other guys over by UNCG. And I still feel really bad that I did that to him.
Wow.
But yeah, so I just never came home. And then not too long after that, Antonio, who was singing, quit. And Eddie was just like, you're singing now. And I'm like, I didn't know how to do that. I still, there's like still so much room for improvement and things I don't understand. But I think it was solely off of like like the other bands would be like, oh yeah, you're monkey bass player, because I would just like throw myself around and like overcompensating for the fact that like I'm not very good at this thing,
Right.
and then based off that, I think Eddie's like, well, he would probably
Like
make a good
the
front
good stage
guy.
presence. Yeah.
That's why like the first couple records, you know, I'm just yelling and hoping that it's the right thing. And then there would be over the years like people, I mean, you know, just saying like, I don't know why these guys are doing so well because their singer sucks. I'm like, I know. I fucking know. Okay? Like, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. Like, yeah. It's like, are you listening? Did you like it? Shut the fuck up. There's like, so, and then now, like, listening to those older songs and things like that is like really difficult for me.
Really? Okay.
Well, yeah, because
Like you insecure about how it sounds? Is that what it is?
yeah.
Okay, yeah.
And the sound of my voice, like now I've learned more, obviously. Well, I mean, fucking hopefully.
Yeah.
And then, but just the sound, the timbre, nothing dynamic about it. And then,
Well,
so it's
yeah,
hard
that's-
to, it's like hard, so it's hard for me to listen to it because I'm like, I don't understand. Everybody likes this. I'm really glad they do.
Right.
But I
Yeah.
don't get
Well,
it.
I get that. I mean, I listen back
loved
to
it at the
stuff.
time.
Yeah, and the stuff we did when we were younger, I listen back to it, and I feel that way. But the difference is you were put on this platform of like a lot of people are going to listen to this stuff. So it's like, you know, the early music I made when I hated my voice, nobody fucking heard it.
Right. And they're never going to. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like
Yeah.
that stuff could just live in a vault, you know. But yeah, you're out here making records where you're trying to figure out how to be a lead singer and
In real time.
and
Right.
it goes back to what we were talking about earlier, that honesty. Obviously there's something about what you were doing that felt
Real to
real.
yeah.
People connected
well,
with it.
it like was, because it was all performance. For me in those, well, it is now still. I mean, that's how I see it. Like or like even with the recording stuff, which I feel like why, or just even with our earlier conversations, why like for so long, like I felt like I'm just never gonna get this. Like I just can't, blah, blah, blah. But it's because I'm like focusing so much on like, well, or like some kind of perfect, like this is the method and this is how you do it.
Yeah.
And then, well, how come when I follow all those steps, it never sounds like that? What the fuck? And then, but just recently coming to realize, you know, like, oh, because I don't do what that guy does.
Right. Right.
So like, why am I? And then I don't even like the records that sound the way that those methods lead to records that sound too clean and sterile, stiff, right? However you want to say it. And then, so like, why have I spent like that whole thing?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
But it's taken all that time to realize that. So I'm like, okay, well, better
Yeah.
late than never, I
Yeah.
guess.
But again, it must have worked, man.
Well, it did well.
It did work.
And it, well, like still though, like I feel that though, like looking back, like there's so many, you know, when you look back on like, as I'm sure everybody feels, like this thing of like, oh man, why did I do that? Or why did I say this? Or why did I, it's just like that thing
I
you're
do
running
it
in
all
your
day, every
head.
day. Yeah.
Right.
yeah.
You're like, oh, it sucks for you. I'm awesome all the time. And so, but even like through that, like I realize now, looking back on it, that in those earlier days, like those earlier times, like I was doing so much trying to overcompensate for this thing because I know I don't know what the fuck I'm doing.
Right.
And I know the parts about it that I don't like, and they're very large and blaring, and there's no ignoring them to me. And then so I feel that because of that, but I can't admit it to myself. Here I am acting out, fucking just, and a lot of overcompensating. Some of the overcompensating I think was really healthy, as far as just what music is to me and can do for me. Because that whole thing of like getting lost or total freedom or forgetting yourself, forgetting your sense of self. I mean, that's why people like eat mushrooms, you know, like, cause it helps to make a connection that's not there. Like, because now, like your ego's not driving because it can't.
Right.
Sure.
And in those moments to where like you can just get lost and your body's lost and it's like this like primal kind of. So in that aspect, that part of it, I think was so healthy, and that taught me how to use like that music in general. And those opportunities as a tool for like this trouble, you know, because there's a lot of it.
Yeah.
And so in that sense, great. In the other sense, you're like 20 years old and in an interview and somebody's asked you questions and you're feeling like you're playing cool, but inside you're like, oh, I don't belong here. What the fuck's going on? Other shit. You're gonna end up saying some dumb shit that you regret, and I did a lot of that. But I realize why now. I mean, you know, hindsight's always perfect.
Yeah, but I mean, that's the thing about like music is music is art, it's expression, and there's so many ways to approach it. And I mean, for me personally, I think the vocal aspect, like the voice, is one of those things where you can learn to be a technically proficient singer, and that's really cool. Just like it's cool to learn to be a great guitar player or whatever your instrument is. But the ability to just like be able to express yourself effectively is really the most important part, I think. And so when you have
Effectively, I like that.
right.
Yeah.
So it's like
Yeah.
do I like. I spent a lot of time trying to learn to be a technically good singer, and I appreciate that, you know, but at the same time, I look back at my favorite singers, and with the exception of like Jeff Buckley, you know, people like that who are just like, you know, amazing, you know, and just like nobody can touch that type of singing. It's like most of my favorite singers, I don't know if they were really singers or if they were just carrying and expressing the art effectively, you know.
Right.
Like we talked about Bob Dylan before. I mean, Bob Dylan is by far my favorite singer-songwriter of all time.
Yeah.
And he had a cool voice, but he wasn't like a good singer,
Well,
right?
like,
If we're being objective about it, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, like Dave Grohl has that whole thing, like, or there's an interview that I saw, and they were asking him, like, what do you think about these shows, like The Voice or American Idol and stuff? He's like, and he had a great answer. Part of that answer, he cited Bob Dylan. He's like, could you imagine a young Bob Dylan getting up here and getting ripped apart by those assholes, and then like maybe he never does the thing,
Right.
and then it's like, oh my God,
Yeah.
the world would be worse off for it,
Right. Yeah.
And then because he's basically saying like, he's like, that's my fear, is that it like is turning people like that off,
Yeah. Oh,
or like
absolutely.
making them think they can't do it or something.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think that's something I've always leaned on. Is like there's been a part of me that's chased. You know, I wanted to be a better musician, and then I kind of at a certain point was like, well, you know, I may not ever be like an amazing musician, but I really love making music, and so you know, like,
I'm probably not ever going to be Stevie Ray Vaughan, and it's taken me a while,
right.
but I realize that now.
But what's good is when you're that guy is to surround yourself with people who like what I've done is guys that are great
Yeah,
musicians.
I've changed my analogy of being like you know, in the band, of like putting my piece of the puzzle to it. What you said earlier about you're courting the song. I'm like, I'm your wingman.
You're my wingman. You're
I
helping
want
me.
you to take the song home.
Yeah.
Like you're off going to the bathroom. He's over there talking to his song. Like, you know, he's also really funny. Charming.
He's got a great car.
Yeah, like, you should give him a chance. He's got it together.
Yeah.
Anyways, you make your own decision. Yeah.